care more. Um, do you have the news on what pitcher you're adding? As Jose Cuas got option this morning? Could you tell us that?
We're gonna add Keegan Thompson. Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. Yeah,
Very cool.
Keegan was a great Cub for a while and
Yeah.
then struggled and went down. But that's a bulk guy. Theoretically, I think he's been going 2 innings in every one of his minor league starts. Is that right, Craig?
In his appearances, he's been pitching out of the bullpen. Yeah, and I think see Keegan as multiple innings certainly. And look, we just it's going to take every year. I think bullpens and kind of figuring out what's going on with them is a little bit of a process to find out. And unfortunately, Jose struggled to start the season, and so Keegan gets an opportunity.
Have been wondering about your philosophy on that, so it'll be interesting. If the bullpen mix had been different with more guys who could go multiple innings, would you be inclined to use people that way as a philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're just putting your guys in position to be successful. So certainly multiple innings is on the table with the right pitchers. Absolutely.
All right, let me ask it a different way. A long-held general bullpen thought on my end. Want to get your thought on it because maybe it's too simplistic. Like when I see a lot of guys get used 1 inning after one after one, and part of me thinks, all right, the more guys you use, the more chance that one of them just doesn't have it on a given day. Is that too simplistic to think about it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of that and the hitters that they're facing. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for hitters to face a different pitcher every single at bat. We know that. We know that's more difficult than the third time through the lineup, or whatever. So, but you also need pitchers that are going to that are going to get 15 outs, get 18 outs, get 21 outs. You want pitchers like that. You're trying to develop pitchers like that and find pitchers like that. So, I think both things can be a little bit true. But yeah, I mean, multiple inning relievers are certainly they're valuable for sure, but it's harder to get 6 outs than it is to get 3 outs.
Now that you're a couple of weeks into it at this point, as far as the season goes, but a lot of us were just wondering whether or not more would be added to the starting staff, to the bullpen. And now that you're having to make some maneuvers during the season here, is it fair to look at the way the roster was managed, the staff was managed as far as personnel goes coming into the year, that it was indicative of confidence in what you had available to you in your minor league system and the ability to pull up guys like Keegan?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, like you can't, and lots of clubs around the league are going through this. Like you don't replace Justin Steele with somebody of his quality. And that's how injuries affect you. So there's no replacing guys like that. You can add a body for sure, but he's not going to be of Justin Steele's quality. I think that makes sense. And I think I would argue the same for Julian Merriweather. It's tough to replace guys like that. So that's going to change like what your pitching staff looks like. Injuries, we have to like survive them. None of ours are like really long term right now. So guys are all coming back. So we should get some reinforcements as the weeks come here. But yeah, I mean, I think we're in a decent spot right now, but certainly can't afford your more top pitchers going down. It's going to really impact you.
Craig Counsell's here with us, and Parkins Spiegel, Spiegs and Anthony Herron. I loved the entire way that the opener worked out with Little and Brown, and also that Brown got his first appearance in Texas, and it just seemed like, just from like a makeup standpoint or some of the soft factors, it looked like he really enjoyed being able to get the bulk run and then the first start. Like, how much were you thinking about his personality or his makeup or the effect on him as a person when the way that his role is kind of played out over his first 3 appearances? Because it seems to have worked out really well.
Yeah, I think we've been a little fortunate there and just kind of the nature of what we needed from Ben. But I know, look, your first major league experience as a pitcher is daunting. And in some ways that getting it out of the way, like in just a little easier scenario is just helpful. I believe that. And so we were able to get him, as a relief appearance where we were down. and it didn't go well, but I think he got it out of the way. And from there, he's kind of gotten onto more of a schedule, which he's accustomed to. And he's pitched super well, and he's been a big deal. I mean, he's when we talk about it, he's replaced Justin Steele's innings, and he's done a really darn good job with those innings. So that's been a really pleasant surprise and really helpful and important. His development the first 2 weeks has been really important.
Do you think are you looking at straight starts for him moving forward, or might you use an opener with him again?
I mean, I think we'll look at it. I think it's really uncertain. It's certain lineups, and you always kind of just look at it. But obviously, one of the things too is we're trying to get Ben stretched out a little more. That he just wasn't completely stretched out coming on, and we still are working on that. So, those are things that we have to consider. But it makes sense just to look at it and then decide what the best is for the Cubs and what's the best for Ben.
One last thing on the opener. The Rays get all the credit for it. Like in most of the strategy circles, like 2018, they did it. But I think it was you in the 2017 season with the Brewers. Do you feel a sense of innovation for the way you had to kind of shift to that strategy a bit in 2017 in terms of the opener being sort of pervasive around the game now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rays were doing it first. But
trying to give you some credit here. Trying to give you credit here. Counts. Take it.
I'm not going to take it. No. I think the Rays were doing it first. Oh. But I think like just understanding different ways to use pitching and not being kind of locked into. It's 27 outs. That's what I say that, and it's your pitcher's job is to get outs. That's all we're looking for. We're looking to piece together 27 outs every single day, and I think just. Thinking about it like that is the better way to think about it than starters, relievers. So I think I've always tried to think about it like that, and that means like at times doing something like Luke Little starting when there's 2 out of 3 lefties, starting the game.
So it's remarkably early in the season, and Kyle Hendricks is as experienced and knowledgeable as any pitcher in the sport. This is your first season getting to work with him. You've worked against him plenty over the years, but how does the back and forth work between the two of you where early in the season he's struggling and you as his manager now are trying to help him figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Kyle struggled his first 3 starts. There's no question about it. And, when you look at it, it's stuff that it's not, I don't know if there's anything like brand new that we need to kind of change. When a lot of this comes down to execution, and especially for a pitcher like Kyle, he is kind of required to execute at a higher level than everybody else, just with the nature of his stuff. And when it doesn't happen, the results haven't been great. So we just kind of continue the conversation of trying to get him locked into his mechanics, so that execution level does go to the level it should be at. And then 2, just kind of talk about small things regarding just patterns that we have to just be careful of getting into, that we all kind of like go through with every pitcher on every start.
And because it's early in the season and it's your first season here, I mean, this is still early for you, and even figuring out, just looking with your eyes in person at the pitching staff, the hitters, what makes them tick, how things operate for them when they're really functioning at a high level. Where would you say you're at in that process of just really getting to know these guys?
Yeah, it's where I'd expect to be at. I think I can't. You need to see it, right? It's one of those things where, like, if you're going to use your instincts, the best thing is to like be experienced with your players and see them succeed and see them fail. And as you see that, like, you understand kind of their rhythm. And so, yeah, I mean, we're 12 games in, and we're a 6-week spring training in, and I feel good about it. I'll feel better in 2 more weeks. But so I can't rush that. We have to experience the games together, and we have to experience the peaks and valleys together.
Who are you pleasantly, not surprised, that's the wrong word, but who are you enjoying in a way that you didn't realize you might, in terms of like the people? Because there's some people off to great starts, but also just I'm wondering, like, who's interesting, who's fun that you're getting to work with every day?
John Steinmiller is very interesting.
What are some hallmarks
he's
of
been
this?
Fascinating.
Yeah, he's the PR guy. What are some hallmarks of the Steinmiller administration? There were donuts one day in the spring. Thought maybe that was going to be his.
No, I mean, I think the young player that I talk is just Michael Busch has been really, really fun because I think he's handled everything so well early in his early. This is like you get traded to Chicago Cubs. You're the first baseman. You're a rookie. And there's some heat on you to succeed. And I think I just really appreciate his kind of level-headedness and kind of his consistent approach. It really, I think, is going to it bodes well for him to have success. And so it's been fun watching an important player getting off to a good start, I think, for us that I've been really pleased with.
That's cool. Christopher Morel, backhand play the other night. Thought the tag was pretty sweet on the Bellinger throw. What do you think about the progress for young Christopher at third?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is measured over a long-term thing, not one play here and one play there. But, I mean, Christopher's helping us win games, and that can be done in several ways. And the more we can get him over at third base, the more reps we can get him, the more confidence we can get him, the better. He had a nice series in San Diego. And so we'll build on that, and that gives him some confidence.
Was looking at the games where he gets replaced for Madrigal defensively. There's like 5 times that's happened, 3 at-bats for Nick, 1 pinch hit for Garrett Cooper in there, 2 games in which like the lead happened to be lost by the time the spot came up. Do you does hindsight ever enter your mind at those moments, or can you not allow that as a manager to even think about it?
Yeah, I mean, does hindsight ever enter? Of course it does. I mean, of course we review our decisions. I don't, in those situations, I haven't thought twice about that. I think I think we're using sound strategy there. And there's another guy hitting that's got a chance to do some damage too. And we're putting a better defender in there. So you got to go with that. And I think, that there's been some pitching issues in those games that we're talking about for sure. That we got to probably clean up more than that.
You give me a Christopher Morel anecdote, because there was a lot of time over the offseason where there were folks just trying to figure out how's this lineup, how's the full roster going to get pieced together. And Morel's name came up in trade talks a few times. I know this guy's too young and talented and vibrant, and he's been off to a nice start so far. So you, in early time that you're spending working with him, do you have a nice anecdote for us?
Well, I mean, I think, it was more my kind of opinion of Christopher, really, is just like from watching him, and really it's just the way that his at bats. I mean, I think I just thought more than anything, his at bats make you feel like we have to find a place for this guy to play. It's really important. And, obviously there's multiple spots. He's played multiple spots. I think, in the long run, like if we can, like I've said, if we can get a good third baseman out of this Christopher can turn into a good third baseman. It opens up a lot on the team. And it gives, somebody like Jed, like some flexibility to kind of roster build in the future. And I think that's important. But I think, just watching Chris swing the bat from across the way, like we got to find a spot for this guy to play.
His ability to not swing at stuff outside the zone. That's got to be nice to see. It's him chasing less. Is that something that was a focus in the spring, or is he just kind of finding his way there? How did this happen? What's going on with that? Because the O swing percentage has gone down and down and down for Chris. Yeah,
I mean, look, it's a trait of young players that they're gonna swing at the slider, and then the players who make the adjustments like gradually get better at not swinging at the slider. It's not hey, I think it's not me telling Christopher, don't swing at the slider out of the zone. That's not good enough. But it just, you find ways and with the hitting coaches to just recognize what are your mistakes. And as you see that pitch over and over again, you get a little better at it. And that's what's happening right now. I think Chris just is getting a little bit better at kind of recognizing that pitch because he's seen it more and he's seeing it more. And he gets a little better at laying off it, and that puts him in better count situations to do some damage.
What can you tell us about Nico Hoerner at the plate that you're seeing? It's we love Nico, get a chance to talk to him weekly, but it's been a tough start offensively for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with Nico Hoerner. I think if you look at some other the underlying stuff, it's actually is the same or maybe even a little better than what he was doing last year. So he's run into some tough luck as much as anything. And that, there's nothing you can do about that. That's just the nature of baseball. There's a lot of that in short stints, short stretches of, sample sizes in baseball. And so Nico's just got to stay where he's at and just kind of keep grinding and know the hits are going to come.
How much caution was there in the what at least as far as I could tell was a fairly immediate decision to rule Justin Steele out for all of April? Is there a level of caution that went into that just to sort of make sure he'd get right before he was back out there?
No, I mean that's that's how much he's going to miss. I mean, he's got a strain. There's no way to we know it's a strain of a certain severity that it's going to keep him out at least that long. So there's no extra caution in that. We're just trying to give you an accurate timeline, and that's as accurate as we can give you.
Hey, Craig, when you look at Julio Rodriguez on these Mariners, is that about as good of a five-tool, center field athlete as there is in the game right now? There's something about those guys. It's pretty special stuff. Yeah,
I mean, he's a super exciting player for sure, and he's one of those young players that comes up and you realize he can do things in the game, in every part of the game, to beat you, and at a really young age he's already gotten to like a really high level player, and so those are special players for sure. We got to do our best to stop him for 3 days. Who was it for you as a young fan of the game? Like of an older generation, they had Mantle, of a slightly younger generation, they might have had Trout, or Harper, and now it's Julio. It's like when I ask you for one of those guys, for you as a young fan, who comes to mind? I mean, the guy that did the most amazing things was Bo Jackson. And you'd look at him and you'd be like, can I play on the same field as somebody like that does those things? So that would be the guy that always stuck out for me. Like you'd see him do things on the field and you'd be like, oh my God. Yeah, understandable. All right, Craig, thanks so much. Enjoy your time in Seattle. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. All right. Thanks.